Hello and welcome to another episode of the Unwanted Opinions podcast. Jay and I are back recording in person for the first time in, God, I don't know, how long, Jay?
Before COVID, right?
Yeah.
I think the last time I was at your house was when I took like 3 Benadryl and tried to tough it out.
That's right. You were like tired and sick. And yeah, that was a very long time. So we're recording live. We're going to talk to you guys about NBA playoffs. Julio just got traded to the Titans. Still some Aaron Rodgers drama that's going on, but we'll cover all of that. As always, subscribe to the Unwanted Opinions podcast wherever you find us, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. You can check out our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Unwanted Opinions with Nick and Jay. Email us, unwantedopinionspodcast@gmail.com. Get in touch with us. Leave a rating, leave a review when you hit that subscribe button on iTunes. And away we go. Jay, how are you today, man?
Can't you subscribe on other things like Google Play and Spotify?
Yes, you can.
So don't just...
No, I was saying you can only leave a rating and a review on iTunes. You can subscribe everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting at.
Yes.
And our YouTube should be better coming forward because we're actually recording.
We got video right now.
And the video we used to do kind of sucked because it was me editing the thing. So we're trying to do this a little differently. Yeah. So it'll look a little better, sound a little more clear. And hopefully that's up and running.
We just do the talking. We're not necessarily the tech gurus.
No.
I kind of got the audio down to a T because that part's honestly pretty easy. We've been doing that for almost 2 years now. Yeah. So that I got down pat, but the video stuff
and it kept jacking up on me. Yeah. It would take 8 hours to upload, and then at the end be like, "Oh, by the way, it messed up."
No bueno, it didn't work.
So it was frustrating.
Yeah, but we'll be back, and as you can see, in my home office, you can see all the cool stuff. Peyton and Andrew and Peyton Manning helmet, so always got to represent the Colts. You guys know we're Colts fans, so we can let's just start with Julio in general because he gets traded to the Titans for a second and a fourth. I don't know if wasn't clear if it was a fifth, conditional fourth, depending on records and whatnot. Either way, a 2 and a 4 or a 5, however you slice it. The Titans' offense got better, and the receiving core with AJ and Julio now and Derrick Henry there. It's a scary duo, but
yeah, because now if you stack the box, now you're going to be basically hoping that somebody can cover Julio on one side and AJ Brown on the other, single coverage or some sort of zone. But that offense could be scary. I'm just, as a Colts fan, excited that their defense, to me, is still pretty bad. Yeah.
They had a lot of issues last year defensively. They couldn't get to the quarterback. They couldn't cover anybody, really. And they lost. They didn't have Clowney much last year because he barely played because he was hurt a lot. But he was probably their best pass rusher, and now he's gone. So, and they're going to be starting a rookie corner who we both like, and Caleb Farley. But still, it's if you're counting on a rookie corner to be your best guy in the secondary, that's a lot to ask of them.
I think they lost 3 guys in the secondary alone. Mm-hmm. Malcolm Butler, Logan Ryan, and we were trying to remember the safety. I think they lost one of their safeties.
It was Vaccaro. I'm almost positive it was Kenny Vaccaro.
And I know I think they brought in Bud Dupree, and they brought in...
Which they gave him a lot of money.
They did. And
a ton of money.
The Steelers, usually you don't let a good pass rusher go, so maybe they thought it was more of their scheme that he came on so strong, and he was kind of a one-hit wonder. Up until this point, he had good seasons, but more as a role player, and this past year he kind of broke out. But they also brought in Autry from the Colts.
They stole him from the Colts as well.
And they still got Jeffrey Simmons, so I don't know. To me...
How much better does this actually make them, though?
I don't know, because then you got to factor in the loss of Arthur Smith. So they did bring in Julio, but lost their play caller. And I know the play caller that they have now was there last year. So he might just take over, and try and keep the same offense going forward. But you've seen before, that's all nice and dandy, but they don't think the same way. He's not going to call the exact same play that Arthur Smith would have last year. So I think there's going to be a step down there, but this Titans team put up over 30 points a game last year.
Yeah, their offense was never the issue last year. It really wasn't, with Tannehill and Derrick Henry. And, they upgraded Julio from Corey Davis for a second-round pick. I think you do that 10 times out of 10. I know Julio's 32, turning 33, but to me, he's still one of the 10 best receivers in the league.
How many games did he miss last year? 5.
Maybe.
And he's still...
And the Falcons were so bad. I mean, if they were better, would he have tried to play? Maybe.
I don't know. But the dude averaged like 1,300 or 1,400 yards a season like the past 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, it was always the touchdowns were always his big bugaboo. But
which I didn't even understand. He's big.
But Atlanta still put up a ton of points because he was such a threat. I mean, you double, triple teamed him within the 10-yard line, and then you score anyway. So does it really matter that he didn't put up the numbers? To me, not really, because they still were putting up a ton of yards and a ton of points. I know they didn't win as much after they lost that Super Bowl, but still, they were productive.
And he's never had a running back like Derrick Henry that is going to force them to stack the box. I mean, they had Devontae Freeman.
Just the 1 year, though.
And he was, I think, more explosive out of the backfield as a receiver.
He was a good pass catcher.
So it'll be interesting to see how defenses play this Titans offense, because the three-headed monster between A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, and Derrick Henry.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Be hard to stop.
It really is. I mean, that just gives Tannehill a lot more. I mean, because Julio has such a huge catch radius. I mean, it just is like throw it up to him, and he's going to come down with at least 75% of the balls that are thrown his way. Usually,
in the grand scheme of things, I don't think this offense is going to be that much better, if at all, than it was last year, because I don't think people are taking into account they lost their starting tight end. Mm-hmm. They lost their play caller. They lost another wide receiver, which I know we're talking about. They replaced him with Julio, and I would replace Corey Davis with Julio 10 times out of 10 as well. But I just don't know if this offense is going to be. I think they scored 30.7, almost like 31 points a game last year. I think people are expecting now, they got in. They brought in Julio. They're putting up 38 a game.
They'll expect like Chief type numbers,
but it's not
or the Bills from last year, or even the Packers or whatever. But
they're just going to be more balanced.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe this makes them better come playoff time because you have better matchups. But I mean, I still don't think they're the best team in the division. Just holistically looking at their team, they're the second best team in the division, which isn't bad. And I mean, they're still probably a playoff team, especially with the one added extra team every year now. So, I mean, really, I thought it was a no-brainer. You make that trade, but from what was reported, it was like they were just really betting against themselves for this. There was really no other suitors for Julio because they didn't want to take on his money at his age.
No, and there wasn't too many teams that were willing to take on that contract, but a playoff team that's in contention that feels like they're one or two players away, it made total sense, and I'm not knocking the Titans. I would have been happy
I'd have done it too. I wish
other teams would have done it. Yeah.
If the Colts would have traded their second-round pick for him,
the Packers,
I'd have been totally fine. The Packers, Seahawks, Ravens, any needy receiver. Honestly, any team could use Julio.
But someone that's contending right now and ready to win.
Because he wanted to win, which makes sense because Atlanta wasn't good the past 3 years since – they made the playoffs after they lost that Super Bowl, but other than they really hadn't sniffed the postseason. And
it makes sense for them. They get rid of his contract and they get him
They just drafted Kyle Pitts, number 4. They free up like $11 million immediately, and
they still have Calvin Ridley. So they're going to be fine.
They'll be fine.
And they shipped him to the entirely different conference.
And they weren't going to win anyways with Julio.
So it all worked out. I think it's a win-win for both teams because I don't think anybody was given. If they would have given up a first, the Falcons would have taken it.
Yeah,
so
they would have.
No one was giving up a first for him. They got a second-round pick out of him and a conditional pick on top of that, and freed up salary cap and got him out of the conference. Yeah. So it's a win-win. And like I said, the Titans are in win-now mode. They've made the playoffs. They've won the AFC South the past 3 years, I think. 2 years.
2 out of the last 3.
2. Okay. Yep. So they're right there.
It was the past 2 years. I think Houston won 2 years ago.
Maybe they did. So
they did.
They feel like they're in contention and just took the next step. I'm just saying, pump the brakes if you're a Titans fan, thinking your offense is going to be, exponentially better this year, because you got to remember how good the offense was last year. 30 points a game is hard to do.
Like we said, the offense was not their issue. Last year.
So it'll be interesting. Win-win for both teams. I'm happy for Julio that he got out of Atlanta because he needs something to happen for him. He's at the end of his career. Yeah. So I know he made a Super Bowl. He didn't pull it off.
He had one of the greatest catches in Super Bowl history that's not remembered because they lost that game.
Is that the one on the sideline?
The one on the sideline over.
Toe tap.
I don't even remember who it was over. It doesn't matter. But Matt Ryan was rolling off his back foot, chucks it up to Julio, and he makes an unbelievable catch. And then Matt Ryan gets sacked like 2 plays later, and then they have to punt, and they lose the game.
Yep.
But that catch, I'll remember it forever, but I just feel like it's not ever mentioned with one of the greatest catches in Super Bowl history, because in that game, the bullshit Edelman catch that should have been picked off by Robert Alford, that he just dropped right through his hands, and then Edelman caught it off of some dude's leg.
While he was on the ground.
Yeah. And it's going to be talked about because it's Brady, it's the Patriots, it's whatever. So, anyways.
But I'm happy for both.
Yeah.
And this is a way to rejuvenate the Falcons and move on, because
the rebuilding, that's what they got to do. I mean, they have 2 years left of Matt Ryan, but they couldn't have traded both of them because it would have been too much of a casualty for both of them to go.
And while we're on the subject of Julio, did you see that he came out and said that he had no idea?
I did see that
Shannon Sharpe had him on live TV when he called him. Do you believe
that, though? I don't know if I believe it.
I didn't until he came out and said...
But he's just saying that to try and save his ass.
I don't
look better.
I mean, he's already traded. What's he got to lose? Fuck Atlanta. You know what I mean? Why would I care what Atlanta thinks at this point? They traded me.
Well, it's not just Atlanta. I guess it's everybody. It's the media. It's fans. It's I don't know.
I thought it was staged and planned out all the way up until he said that. I didn't know.
I'm not officially sold that he didn't know, because.
Well, let's say he didn't. How do you feel about that?
If he didn't, it's kind of funny. It's funny regardless, because what he was just saying, how he said he never wanted to play for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
How he said, I'm out of there.
I'm out of there, man.
I just feel like it was all predicated to get out of there. I really do. And I think he's just, I don't know, maybe if people thought it was just a bad look and he's just trying to backtrack on that.
Well, I wonder if he knew that Shannon would put it out there on like the show.
Somebody would have reported it then.
Well, what I'm saying is if he would have thought that he was talking to Shannon in private, but knew if I tell him this, he'll probably bring it up on the show.
That's fair.
But then I can always say, well, that's not exactly how I said it.
Okay.
I kind of have an out. I didn't know he was just going to call me and I was going to be on live TV saying what I said. He can kind of
construe it his way if Shannon Sharpe pulls it out there, because everybody knows if you've seen anything that Shannon does, he's very extra about it all. He puts on a show on his TV show. That's what they do.
Yep.
Yes. So, okay, I can buy that, where he didn't know that he was on live TV, but he knew that whether he told Shannon or not, it was going to get out. I'll buy that.
I hope Shannon told him, because that'd be kind of messed up to put him on the spot like that and not tell him, hey, by the way, you're on TV.
That can really like burn a relationship.
Yeah, for sure it could. And Shannon likes to be known as the guy that everybody can go
Loves
to.
And talks
former
to.
Players, current players.
As soon as he calls him, he said, it's your favorite unk.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I don't know. It was just an odd thing that
I'm not saying that will burn their relationship, because Julio obviously wanted out of Atlanta. So,
and maybe that facilitated it. Maybe that got the ball, because it happened pretty quick after that.
Yeah. Well, they had to wait until June 1 because of the money wise, but still.
So,
anyways,
I don't know. You want to transition to A-Rod since we're talking football?
Yeah, I mean, you were the one that wanted to talk about it more. What specifically was it that you wanted to touch on?
I don't know. Right before we got on, we got
Davante Adams.
Yeah, we got a alert from Bleacher Report saying that Davante Adams has come out and basically said, I got my quarterbacks back through everything, and he didn't show up to OTAs when A-Rod didn't show up.
When he's
voluntary minicamp.
Chilling in Hawaii with Miles Teller and his girlfriend.
So what is this? I mean, my initial thought was the Packers have to fire Gutekunst. I don't even know how that process works, because they don't have an owner. They're the only team in the NFL that doesn't have an owner.
Well, isn't Mark Murphy the one that kind of makes those decisions?
I don't know.
I feel like he is, because he's like the president of
football operations or something.
Whatever. I mean, because
he's the top guy.
Yeah, and then he's got to be the one that hired Gutekunst. They've got to have somebody that makes somewhat of a decision.
I don't know. To me, you got to fire him. A-Rod wants him gone, and I know that's kind of a bad look that the quarterback controls everything. Quarterback comes out and says, I don't want him to do this and that. But, I mean, you can replace a GM. You can't replace one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Especially now at the end of his
MVP
window.
Season.
Ready to win.
Yeah. I mean, you made the NFC Championship game. You feel like you're right there. And after
2 straight years, they made the NFC Championship game.
And I mean,
13-3 in back-to-back seasons.
Yeah.
And
you lose 6 games in 2 years. That's pretty good. And what A-Rod did last year was phenomenal. He still got it, clearly. So I'm sorry, buddy. I don't even care if you have all the best intentions. If I'm in charge and A-Rod wants you gone, I'm taking him, because you're replaceable.
Isn't this only Gutekunst's second year?
I don't care.
I know, but I'm just saying that you got to think about it. They got to pay him out and then pay another GM.
Yeah, but
the Packers, again, like you said, don't have an owner to shell out that cash to somebody. They don't have Jerry Jones where he's like, I don't care if I still got to pay this guy $15 million. I can bring another guy in and pay him $20.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different of a scenario.
It is. But to me, salary, and they're a little different. I get that, but salary cap in the NFL is just like it's an arbitrary
and I
number.
think it's going up this year to 218 or something like that.
What I'm saying is the coaches don't even count against the salary cap.
No, they don't, and neither does the GM.
So they're fine. The Packers are one of the biggest brands in the NFL. If not
the biggest, behind the Cowboys and the Steelers.
They can pay him out and get somebody new and be absolutely fine, and that's what I would do.
I mean, if that's what it takes to make Aaron Rodgers happy, then that's what you got to do. I agree.
Either that or trade him. I mean, to me, you're not going to win a Super Bowl. You might be a good team again, but if you have that much disconnect between your GM and your quarterback that they're going to hate each other all year long, and there's going to be
that's just friction that you don't.
Do you think they can win a Super Bowl with that?
No,
that hangs over, and
won't.
Stuff like that in the locker room can't happen on a Super Bowl winning team. So
unless something I think it could go one or either two ways if that happens. If they do end up playing like that, Rodgers either plays to the same level he did last year or right under it, where he's still an MVP. And then he just propels everybody to the Super Bowl, or he pouts because he's a pouter. He is. That's just kind of his personality. You don't have to know him to realize that. You can just see it. And then it's just bad for everybody, where he pouted when they had Mike McCarthy and they went 7-9 like 2 straight years.
Yep.
And then everyone said he's done, he's washed, he doesn't have it. Then they hire LaFleur. They go 13-3 2 years in a row. Aaron Rodgers back in MVP. So you've kind of seen it. It's not that long ago where he was pissed about the coach, wanted him gone, and then he just was like, well, I mean, I'll play 80% of what I can, and we'll go 7-9, and it won't be good enough. I mean, I think you've seen players do that, not just in football. I mean, you've seen players do that in basketball where they just pout to get their way out, and they make it miserable. I mean, you just saw it with James Harden this year. I mean, he made it miserable for the Rockets, and they were like, all right, we got to get him the fuck out. We can't do this anymore. Kyrie Irving did it in Cleveland. I mean, to an extent, LeBron did it for like a month in Cleveland because he wanted half the roster traded. Jay Crowder, Isaiah Thomas, D. Wade needed to get out, and they brought in Clarkson, and we're going off on a tangent, but it happens every year in sports, no matter what sport. In the NFL, these players are starting to figure out they can control their destiny like NBA players are doing, because the NBA has set such a precedent on, I control this, I'm getting out. You got the owners, you think you can do whatever you want to us, but we hold most of the leverage because we're what makes you the most money.
And it's more prevalent in the NBA because it's a smaller team, so you're relying on basically 5 guys instead of 53 or 11 guys,
2
whatever.
2 guys or 3 guys on the NBA roster.
And that one good superstar knows, without me, you ain't. There's no chance.
I mean, the Rockets went from title contenders to the worst team in the league.
In the NFL, it's a little different. You can build up a good enough roster to where the quarterback doesn't mean as much.
And you can still make the playoffs.
Exactly.
Maybe not win the Super Bowl.
Trent Dilfer won Super Bowl. Yeah. But that Ravens team was so good defensively and had players all over that he was more of...
Jared Goff. I mean, he went to the Super Bowl with such a fantastic Rams roster.
Which is why Trent Dilfer wasn't making decisions on the head coach and roster decisions. No. This is why Jared Goff, they're like, okay, we can
He thinks he wants to make the decisions.
We have a chance to get Stafford. Yeah, see you later.
Yep.
They're not doing that with A-Rod because you've clearly seen when Aaron Rodgers goes down with an injury or something, or Peyton Manning goes out a season and they go 2-14.
Yep.
Those players are on a totally different level and command way more.
They've earned to have a say in a lot of things. And Aaron has definitely done everything in his career. He's earned the right to get a say in things, or at least be in the discussion for all these players. Like, I think I just saw Tom Brady has been in Tampa 1 year, and Bruce Arians was telling him to go scout some receivers that he liked.
Yep.
I mean, I get Brady's got the 6 rings before this year, so now he's got 7, but it's just the status of Tom Brady, what he had, the equity to come in and say, hey, do you like this guy? What do you think? I mean, we're running a trade by you. We're running a draft pick by you. I mean, you don't have to do everything, but like at least bring the guy in. And from what was said, he wasn't in any of those discussions. Nothing.
No.
They took nothing for his. They took none of his advice.
Clearly, I mean, 2 years ago, he was like, yeah, it'd be really cool to have a wide receiver, that we draft in the first round. Made it very publicly known what he felt was a need on the team. What he felt
with a first-round receiver.
Nope. And they decided, I heard you, but that's not what we're going to do.
Yeah, thanks, but
not only are we not going to draft a wide receiver, we're going to try and draft your replacement in the first round, and we're going to trade up to go get him. So that was a slap in the face. And then he has that MVP season last year, kind of kept his head down and just went out and balled out. Mm-hmm. And then, after that, you would kind of think, okay, maybe they'll listen to me this year. Nope, we'll wait until round 3 or 4 to go get Amari Rodgers, but we're going to go in a whole totally different direction. And we're not going to trade for Julio, and we're not going to go get a big-name wide receiver in free agency.
Or trade for Will Fuller last year at the deadline when they wouldn't have had to. In hindsight, it wouldn't have been beneficial because he would have been suspended for the rest of the year. But still, just the fact that they weren't willing to go make a move to help him offensively.
There's so many similarities I see in A-Rod and Peyton where do you think before Aaron Rodgers or after Aaron Rodgers you would ever know who Robert Tonyan was?
No, absolutely
Alan Lazard.
No, none of these guys would be. They would be
Marquez
guys
Valdez
that barely
Scantling.
played.
But they're known commodities because Aaron makes them good.
Absolutely.
So imagine what he could do with someone beside Devontae Adams.
Yeah, a guy that can actually win a one-on-one matchup other than Devontae Adams.
Yes.
Like, and I don't in MVS.
Back when he had Jordy.
Yeah. And Randall Cobb.
He had bigger guys.
James Jones, Greg Jennings.
Yes.
I mean, these guys were good players. And some of them they found in round 2, round 3.
What happened back then?
was like a round 7 pick. But anyways.
They won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
When he had good players around him.
I think Greg Jennings was drafted in the 2nd or 3rd round. Same thing with Jordy Nelson. So they were drafting receivers high.
I think so was Randall Cobb. I think he was like a 3rd round
receiver. He's 2nd or 3rd. And I know Devontae was, but I mean, the point is we have a buddy who's a Packers fan, and he was like, I don't think that their weapons are that bad. I'm like, no, they're not bad, but they could be better.
They could be way better. And
because
it's not
that's where the league is going. It's all offense. I mean, you got to have a ton of weapons because the game has just changed so much. We've harped on this for years, and it's no secret. Everybody knows it. But you got to have like 3, 4, 5 receivers that can beat one-on-one coverage because if one goes down, you throw in another one that can do the exact same thing.
I don't even think you can justify it anymore if you're a Packers fan or front office in the Packers because it would make sense to me if you looked at the Packers over the past few years when Aaron Rodgers has been unhappy and you haven't got him these weapons. You could say, but we went out and got you pass rushers in free agency. We drafted defense after defense in the first round, and we got you all these guys. But I don't even look at the Packers as a top 10 defense. No. I don't look at them and think that was well worth it. Aaron Rodgers can make do with what he has on offense because the defense is so good. It's not that way.
No.
So now you flip it and you're like, okay, they should not have done that. If they would have just taken all that money and gave Aaron Rodgers all these weapons, imagine what they could have been with an average defense.
Yeah, because they spent all that money the 1 year in free agency, and they were top 10 defense for like 3 weeks.
And then it just went downhill.
It all went downhill. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop anybody. I mean, they would get a lead and then almost blow it because their defense couldn't keep them in the game.
And I don't think they're a bottom half or a bottom like 10 defense in the NFL, but they're average. They're not like high up.
In between 15 to 20.
So let's just say 15. You could have been a top 15 defense without spending all that money and all that draft capital and been the best offense in the NFL or the second best offense in the NFL and had a way better chance of making the Super Bowl, in my opinion, if Aaron Rodgers had the weapons that he used to have. They would be competing with the Chiefs offense to be the best because hand in hand, some days I'd take Patrick Mahomes, but after last year, you might take Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, Aaron
Rodgers
is still in the conversation as the best quarterback.
Yes, for sure.
With
and then
Russell, with Patrick.
Aaron Jones, I would take over Clyde Edwards-Helaire. The Packers, not this season because what the Kansas City Chiefs have done to boost that offensive line after the Super Bowl, they could instantly be one of the top 5 best offensive lines in the league. But up until this point, I would take the Packers offensive line over the Chiefs offensive line probably.
But that even just illustrates more of your point. The Chiefs got to the Super Bowl, couldn't protect Patrick Mahomes. What'd they go out and do? They fixed the one need that they have on that defense to where they were just like, okay, if we protect Patrick Mahomes, we're set.
Yep.
We're good.
Yep. And
that's what they did. You fixed the holes on your roster going in. And I get that the Packers, yes, they had a need at corner because Kevin King got absolutely torched.
Yes, he did.
In the NFC Championship game. but I just didn't like that pick. I mean, I know we've touched on that before, but at some point you just got to feel like, all right, what do we got to do to make you happy?
And I'm a defensive guy, but the NFL is moving to all offense. I mean, it's been clear.
All the rules, all everything.
Look at the two teams in the Super Bowl last year. What they have in common? Good quarterbacks and playmakers everywhere. The Chiefs have so many playmakers offensively at wide. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce,
Hardman.
Yeah, all these guys.
Still had Sammy Watkins last year.
Yep, and then you go to the Buccaneers. They got
Godwin, Evans, O.J. Howard, Gronk.
Yep.
Tyler Johnson. I mean, is a good player.
They're running backs out of the backfield.
Fournette and
Ronald
Jones. I mean, I get your point. Bottom line. Is he playing for the Packers this year?
I've said I think he's gone.
You're still there?
Yeah, I do.
I think he's coming back. I don't think the Packers are going to be the team that will be like, all right, we traded away Aaron Rodgers.
Well, let's see what happens when he doesn't show up to OTAs or training camp.
I mean, that's just my gut feeling because I also don't think he's going to be like, man, there's $23 million I got to get back if I don't. I don't know. I think he's still there and unhappy.
Yeah, money's not an issue with him.
I know it's not, but still.
I know that it's easy for me to say he's got all the money in the world. Turned out he can give back $23 million.
I mean, I know he does the State Farm commercials.
But the thing is, if he gives back $23 million, he's gonna get. If he sits out the whole year, they're not, and he shows he's willing. Like, I don't care. I'll give the $23 million back. You don't think they're going to trade him at that point? Then he gets traded. Someone else picks up his contract. He's going to get paid, and he's still going to be playing in the league.
You want to lose the asset for
He's
nothing.
still going to be making State Farm commercials. So,
and like I said, if he did retire, NBC, ESPN, Fox, they hire him like that.
One of those options.
Somebody would pick him up because he's too big of a name and too. I think he would be good in the studio because he's very smart. He's very cerebral. He may not get along with people in the studio, so maybe just need to be a one-man show, but still.
But my point is, money's not going to be...
Pat McAfee show with him. I'm sure a network would love to have McAfee and Aaron Rodgers on the team.
So money's not going to be his deciding factor in him not playing. I think he's willing to not show up and stick it to the Packers. Like, until you fire this dude or trade me, I'm not playing for you guys no more.
That's possible.
But you think he's going to be playing in Green Bay next year?
I just think he's going to stay.
If he stays, is Gutekunst still the GM?
Yeah, I just think it's going to be a very tense, awkward season for the Packers.
I could see it,
and I don't think it'll be. I don't think they'll win. If that happens, they may win 10 games.
I don't know if he plays like he did last year.
But if you're going to powder Aaron Rodgers, I know he cares about legacy. I know he cares about stats. I know that he wants to be in the conversation as the GOAT, and he needs the numbers to back it up. But he also needs more Super Bowl appearances. I mean, dude's only been one time.
He's been twice and won once.
No, he's only been to one Super Bowl.
That's it? And he won it?
He's only been to one. I mean, it just is. It helps your legacy to go to multiple.
That was a hell of a run, too. All on the road. Went through.
It was. I mean, it was really. I mean, the defense was really good that year, too. And I think he's 1-5 in championship games.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense.
1-4, 1-5. So the opportunity to go to the Super Bowl, he's only won one time.
So
whereas some of the other great quarterbacks, when they get there, they win.
They've
won.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Well, let's move on from A-Rod. We'll leave that for another day, and maybe he'll get traded before the season starts. I don't know.
That would be huge.
We'll see. I mean, that would be breaking news.
Yeah,
that would be one of the biggest trades of all time.
I still think he's going to Denver. I don't know why. Just my gut says he's going to Denver.
The John Elway connection with quarterbacks.
And when I heard Mark Schlereth say, I've heard it's almost all but done deal, and he's not a newsbreaker, and he's so linked into Denver.
He is. He played with John.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. Let's talk some NBA playoffs. We don't have to go through the whole thing. Let's just start with some of tonight's matchup or last night's matchups from. Okay. Last night we had... It was the Nets and the Bucks and then the Suns and the Nuggets. Now the Nets, if they play like that, there's nobody that's beating them. That's why I thought they were coming out of the East. I don't care what kind of defense they play. If they even play... I mean, they're doing this at Harden too. I mean, I was very skeptical on them. I just didn't think they had enough size. I didn't think they cared enough defensively. Didn't play enough together. I didn't think that it was going to matter that...
I thought it was going to matter that they didn't do any of these things in the regular season and they would have bad habits going in the postseason, because the history has told us that it does.
Yeah.
And the injury history with these guys, and I mean, Harden's already out. I mean, which sucks that he's got his hamstring hurt, and they're still blowing out one of the 5 best teams in basketball in Milwaukee.
What we've seen so far, I think they could win the whole thing without him.
I mean, do they even have to play 2 more games against this series? I mean, I thought the Bucks could hang with them, and honestly, I thought they could win this series. I really did, because I thought everyone was just being a little too dismissive of Milwaukee just because of their past playoff failures. But through the first 2 games, really game 2 more than game 1, because game 1 they were in it pretty much up until midway through the fourth quarter. They were only down 10, and just some weird lineups with Bud, and that's been his issue forever. And he doesn't like to play Giannis and Middleton and Holiday big minutes. I still don't get why, when Giannis is like 25 in the prime of his athletic peak, still only playing like 35 minutes a game, and at the playoffs still doesn't make any sense. But more in game 2, where Harden's out officially, you have an opportunity to steal 1 game in Brooklyn, then you're going back for 2 in Milwaukee, where you're like, we've got our home crowd, we're basically back to full capacity, we'll have momentum, no James Harden, we can do this. And they just laid a fucking egg in game 2. I mean, to start off the game, Giannis was horrible. I mean, he was getting single covered by Blake Griffin and couldn't do anything. And then Middleton couldn't hit a shot. Drew Holiday and Brook Lopez was the only reason why they weren't down by 80 on the fucking scoreboard, because they were just so bad. I mean, it was disgusting. Their rotations were terrible. They couldn't figure out that. We were texting about this. I was like, the Nets switched like everything, and they couldn't figure out who the worst defenders were and just attack them. I'm like, get Giannis in a switch with Landry Shamet or Joe Harris and let him go kill them in the post, or let Middleton or let Holiday do this. And on the other end, Brooklyn was doing the exact same thing. They were finding Bryn Forbes. They were finding Bobby Portis. They were finding their matchup that they wanted. And then KD and Kyrie were just killing them.
And KD was attacking the rim like Giannis should have been, and getting fouls. And
and that's another thing. They weren't trying to attack the rim, and they weren't getting any calls, and they were getting pissed, and they'd be pissing on the way back down. They wouldn't get back on defense, and the Nets would just be up by 17 in a matter of 3 minutes.
Yep. And that's my biggest pet peeve. You complain about it when you're down there on offense. Yeah. Don't not hustle back on defense, because you're just putting your team at the biggest disadvantage. Yes. And you're not used to seeing that from Milwaukee. They're such a team-oriented, I guess team-oriented team, whatever you want to say. Like, they love each other. They play hard for each other. They're not ones to complain and walk up the court. And it just it looked like after game 2, they were just done.
It was embarrassing.
They only scored 89 points. I think that was the lowest they've scored
by
all year.
47
49.
49.
It was almost 50.
49 in a playoff game.
They didn't lead a single second in that whole game. Right from the jump, Brooklyn just took it to them. And
they did. And Blake Griffin's out here putting back dunks, dunking on. I said
should be charged
with robbery from the city of Detroit. Yeah. I mean, that man, and I saw a bunch of people be like, I'm so happy that Blake Griffin is thriving in Brooklyn. Why? I mean, I get it. If you don't want to, you got traded to Detroit, you didn't want to be there. You're getting paid like $36 million, and you flat out just quit on a franchise.
The thing is, he basically did what James Harden got destroyed for.
Exactly.
He just didn't publicly
for it because it was in Detroit. Everyone thought he was done. Which, to his credit, he even said this. He goes, "People thought I sucked," and he was like, "So I'm just trying to prove that I don't." But you just quit on your team. I get that you play with Kyrie and KD and James Harden, so things open up for you and it becomes easier. You don't have to do everything. But the man didn't try in Detroit.
Because he looks like a completely different player here in Brooklyn.
Yes.
You said I think we were talking one time a while back, and like we basically said his athleticism was gone.
He dunked in a year and a half.
And the dude comes through with like 10 points in the first quarter, he didn't have 10, but like at the 10-point mark that Brooklyn was at, off of a missed shot, and just soars. It looks like from
he
the
was
free
jumping
throw
over
line.
The Kia at the dunk contest
and
again.
the put back dunk, and I'm like, where did this come from?
That was not the Blake that was playing in Detroit for the past 3 years.
So with this roster,
that was like early Clipper days. Blake Griffin, pre-9 surgeries on his knee.
It might be too early for this, because I mean it's still so early in Brooklyn's tenure of all these guys playing together. But this team could ruin the NBA again if they stick together like really the Warriors did. If they play like this and another year into the league next year of playing together and everything, they could be the next dynasty that it's not even worth watching the league because it's like I already know who's going to win.
Yeah. It's KD.
Uh-huh.
So again, everyone was like, yeah, KD when he went to Brooklyn was like, okay, his ring's going to mean more if he wins in Brooklyn. Now, does it if he wins with Kyrie and Harden? He has three of the best 10 guys. And this rejuvenated
Blake Griffin
and Joe Harris. Joe Harris has always been he's been a good player for a couple years in Brooklyn. I mean, a dude shot like almost 50% from catch and shoot threes this year, which is nuts. But he's got it so open of threes. It's just maybe it was just I didn't want them to win so much because again, I'll admit I'm still rooting against them because I hate them. I just don't like them. I don't like Harden. I don't like Kyrie. I don't like KD.
And how it all came together.
I don't like any of them. I don't like a lot of the things that they've done over the course of their careers. I didn't like the way Harden played, but I never really had a problem with him in Houston. I just didn't
up until now
win. But what he did to get his way out.
So this team is basically the island of misfits for you of guys that you don't like based off of what they've done in their career
in the past.
Yep, where KD's basically throwing all sorts of fits like, hey, look at me. I'm the most relevant player, cry about everything, had to go to Golden State, and then wanted to be mad when everybody kind of
pretended like he didn't care about it when he really did.
With all your burner accounts and all that stuff. So there's him. James Harden forces his way out of Houston the way he did, which was just... It was pathetic how he did that and how he just drug his teammates through the mud to get there.
I mean, dude was literally just throwing passes out of bounds in his last couple days.
Kyrie throwing fits about having to be second fiddle to LeBron in Cleveland after LeBron got him his only ring he could get.
Yeah.
And then goes to Boston thinking he's going to be the man.
Tells them at like a home fan rally that says, I'm coming back if you'll have me.
Yeah.
Literally told a million Boston fans that I'm coming back. And no wonder why they boo him every time he gets on. He stomped on the logo, which I don't really care about. I think it was way overblown he did that. Who cares?
Exactly.
Whatever. But still, I mean, there's obviously bad blood between him and the Celtics. So he's just gone a lot of places and not fit in. And KD's made a lot of people mad. He ruined the league for 3 years. I've said this for a really long time. And
now he's about to ruin it again if they can keep this up.
It may be true, but they're so good
on the court
offensively.
Yeah, there's nobody stopping them.
And I've never denied the greatness of any of these players.
No.
Ever. It's never been that. It's just what they've done really outside of basketball and how they've come to their basketball lives on their teams. I've hated the process of them doing it. And just strictly for the competitive balance of the league really is what it is. And yes, I want to see LeBron win every year because I love LeBron, but it's better for the league if he doesn't. If he has, like, the San Antonio team that beat him. If he has the Golden State team in 15, even though they probably would have won had they had Kyrie and Kevin Love. But anyways, it's good to have those teams that you compete with them, and it's not like a 4 or 5 game series in the NBA Finals where it just sucks and everybody already knows the outcome, so you barely watch.
And I don't want to dismiss LeBron making a super team in Miami, but people forget when he went there, he took 3 guys there to go compete against the super team that Boston already had. So it wasn't if LeBron never went to Miami and stayed in Cleveland with the guys that he had, Boston would have ran the league for another 3 years.
Absolutely.
And nobody would have competed with them. I don't think people remember that. When KD went to the Warriors, there was nobody that was even close to that. Right now in the NBA, it's a bunch of duos everywhere.
Yeah.
The Clippers, Paul George and Kawhi. Lakers, LeBron and AD. Portland, I know they're not a powerhouse, but they got CJ and Dame.
It was supposed to be Luka and Porzingis.
So we got duos everywhere.
Jamal Murray and Jokic.
Whereas in Brooklyn, they had to get 3 of the top 10 players in the league together, and now they're trying to form what Golden State had, and they're going to ruin the league again as well, in my opinion. Yeah. So it's different to me, and I hate it.
I don't like it either. I don't like it for the league. I don't like the way it was done. And then I heard somebody else saying, like, KD, come on, again? Like, you had to go do this again? You just got out of it in Golden State. And I mean, whatever. It's his friend.
If it would have been KD and Kyrie, cool.
I'm cool with that. They competed with every team in the league if it's just those
Show
two
what
guys.
You got. You got your duo.
Point taken right now. They don't have Harden, and they're wiping the floor with the Bucks.
Yep.
Who, including myself, I thought were going to be... And maybe we are just being, it's 2 games, whatever. We've seen a lot of people come back from down 2-0. It's just the way that they're losing these games is
they look dominant.
Very pressing, but it's just like, come on. I just don't know. I got to say, like, the way that they've looked these first 2 games, they look unbeatable. They really do. And Milwaukee, we can get to that part of that. It's just, they look like the team that's flamed out in the playoffs the past couple years. Giannis is reverting back to the same stuff, missing free throws, not being that aggressive, going to the rim when there's guys in front of him where he just doesn't look like he trusts his jump shot at all. And Middleton flaming out again in his first 2 games. He's been terrible. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was last year he was bad. The year before he was bad in that Toronto series when they lost 4 straight. This year you have the opportunity to right the ship, prove your doubters wrong. And I mean, unless they win, and if they win these next 2 games in Milwaukee, maybe we'll be having a different conversation. But it's still, I mean, they got to win 4 out of the next 5 against this Brooklyn team where they haven't been able to stop at all.
I'm already counting this as a series is done, in my opinion. And you were higher on the Bucks than I was because I told you I thought the blueprint was drawn on how to stop the Bucks, and you thought it was going to be way different, and it looked like it was going to be different after round 1. This is why
they burned a lot of their demons. They beat the team that crushed them last year in the bubble, Miami.
This is why I thought the Nets were going to come out of the East, because I said they're just too good not to. I just thought the Lakers were going to be better, and what we saw last year was the true Lakers, and I thought it would just be a matchup problem, and I thought the Lakers would prevail. Mm-hmm. Clearly, the Lakers did not.
I mean, obviously Davis gets hurt, and the whole thing is wrecked.
Yep, they're out of the playoffs, and even with a healthy Davis, I don't think they were beating this Brooklyn team.
Maybe not. Maybe this team is just so good, and maybe it's just inevitable that it was bound to happen. We just hadn't seen it enough this year because it was 8 games those guys played together, 8 games in 43 seconds in game 1 when Harden goes out, and maybe he doesn't even come back until like the conference finals or the NBA finals if they get to those points.
They don't need him. I'll tell you that.
Not the way they're playing right now, not the way other teams are playing right now on the other side of Philly and Atlanta. I mean, we can move to that. Coming. I mean, it was just the Trae Young show. I mean, it's the same thing that happened with the Knicks. I thought the Knicks were just going to rough Trae Young up. That's just not been the game plan for any of these teams, where they're just basically letting Trae do whatever he wants. And a lot of credit to Trae Young, because I've come like full circle on this guy, because when he first came into the league, I was not a fan. I didn't think he was a winning player. And I think obviously the stats and the record would back that up, because he was putting up a lot of good numbers, and everybody's like, well, look at his numbers. I'm like, well, he doesn't win. I mean, at the end of the day, you can put up all the numbers you want, but if you don't win, what's the point? That's the name of the game. You got to win. Now he's winning and putting up the same numbers. The team's better around him. And I know a lot of people are like, he plays the foul game. He tries to draw a lot of fouls, and he gets a lot of calls like he's a 10-year veteran, which some of it are astounding that he gets some of these calls. But anyways, I just didn't understand Philly's game plan in the beginning. I mean, Embiid looked fine after the partial tear in his meniscus. He wasn't the problem. It was their perimeter defense was just, it was confusing. I just didn't think they played the right way. I thought until the second half, when they started to finally trap him over half court, get the ball out of his hands, make the other guys beat you. Because he was just having his way in the first half. They put up 74 in the first half or something like that. They were 20 at halftime.
He's a superstar.
He was awesome. He was really good. There's no way to put it.
And I think within a couple years, unlike years past, he is going to get someone to come to Atlanta and play there. Atlanta's not a bad city. There's a lot to do in Atlanta.
That's a huge market.
Yep. So I think within a couple years, a big name is going to go there, and they're going to start competing. And if Trae Young just continues on this path, he's already one of the best scorers in the NBA.
Oh yeah, easily.
And he can
get
pass,
his own shot from anywhere. That was the problem. Is I think his game has just evolved into winning basketball more now. It's
when he first entered the league,
it's not hunting assists for the numbers, saying, "Hey, I put up 32 and 17, but we lost by 14 points," because that just at the end of the day doesn't matter. He's putting his team into winning positions. He's getting his guys where they need to go.
Imagine someone like a Bradley Beal in Atlanta.
I mean, that's just so much more firepower.
Yeah.
I mean, that's their goal, is to outscore everybody. Exactly. And that's kind of where, at least this year, which I know every offensive stat is being like shattered this year. And maybe it's because it's the weird COVID season, empty arenas. You can predicate a lot of these numbers to it, but the league is changing like this from at least 5 years ago from Steph Curry. All these threes, everybody's shooting threes. You're shooting threes in transition. You're shooting threes on 3-on-1 fast breaks. I mean, that's just what the game is going to. And Atlanta's maybe one of those teams that's figuring it out sooner than some of the other teams offensively. They're just like, hey, we're just going to outscore everybody. We may not be able to get stops, but we'll just harp on you maybe missing more shots than we do. Yeah,
going like in a playoff series, we'll just hope that you have like 3 really bad shooting games.
We're going to plan on beating you where we score 140 and you only score 132.
4 times
or something like that. Yeah, because we think our guys can do it, and that's the same thing Brooklyn's doing. But in game 1, I just don't think you can overreact a ton because I still think Philly at the end of that game was figuring some stuff out. Like I said, with Garden Trae, they really harped down on him more in the second half, and they've got the guys to throw at him, Simmons and Thibault and Danny Green. And
I'll still take Philly to win this series.
I will too, because I just think they're the better team.
But man, like I thought it was going to be a better series in the first series between the 4 and 5, and Atlanta kind of ran away with
the Knicks. The Knicks,
well, the Knicks were known for defense.
I was originally going with Atlanta, and then when I talked myself into the fucking Knicks, and I'm just like, why did I talk myself into the Knicks? Atlanta's just, I knew that they were a better team. I just thought they were going to be so physical as the playoffs. I just kind of got thrown into this old school mentality with Tibbs and defense and
Derrick Rose, good story.
Yeah, Randall had such a fantastic regular season, but he was
then just was a no show. He shot
like 24% from the field. That was terrible.
Yep.
But yeah. I mean,
what about unless you had more on that? What about
I'm good on that series.
The Clippers coming back on the Mavs. That took me by surprise because the last podcast we did,
I thought they were done. I literally said they're done.
Well, yeah. Well, the last podcast we did, I think, was where the Mavs took the lead 2-1, and then we're going to Dallas.
They were up 2-0 going back to Dallas,
and you said there's no way that the Clippers win Game 3 because they're going home.
Yep.
And they ended up squeaking that one out, and then they just turned the series around. And I think first of all, Porzingis, he's out here making public statements about how he's not happy with the role he's getting and all this stuff. And I'm like, you haven't done
Try harder.
Yeah, play better.
Yes.
Because what you're doing is not working. Luka's doing I can't say everything because I'll tell you
near.
Tim Hardaway, I thought played pretty well in that series. Given he played to what you expected him to play,
Absolutely.
And then maybe a little more.
And same thing with Finney-Smith and a few of these other guys played up to what they can, and maybe, like you said, a little bit more.
Luka played out of his mind.
Nothing from Porzingis.
And in order to win the series, you needed Luka to be able to play at the level you expected him to play.
Supernova, which he was, and you just need more from who's supposed to be your second best player.
Yeah, dude, just give me what you gave in the regular season. You're 20-9 or whatever the hell you averaged.
Whoever it is.
But what do you average, like
13
12,
and 5, I think.
Yeah. How are you 7'12" and get 4 rebounds a game?
And that's the thing. If he's the type of guy that's, I'm not being involved in the offense, so I'm not going to try hard on defense. I'm not going to box out. I'm not going to rebound because we were texting about it. There was one game where Terrence Mann just comes flying in like on 4 straight possessions and just outworks Porzingis for a rebound when you're still only down like 4 or 5 in a game 7. And you're just getting outworked by a guy who's 6'3", who just wants it more than you. And that's what it comes. That's what it came down to. You are
literally a foot taller than this man.
Because even in games 6 and 7, after the Clippers go get games 3 and 4 in Dallas, then the Mavericks are like, we get game 5 in LA. We're going home for game 6. We can close it out. They were in it up until Kawhi just went fucking bonkers in that fourth quarter where he was hitting step backs over anybody. He wasn't going to miss in that opportunity. But I think the Mavericks were up like 6 or 7 going into the fourth quarter. And they just like imploded in that fourth quarter. It was bad.
That's kind of been the stigma around the Mavs as a whole, and Luka as his career
as the game goes on.
He gets worse, and he doesn't come through in clutch time, and the Mavs don't come through in clutch time, and
he's exhausted.
Oh, for sure.
He has to do everything. He's carrying the load so much offensively.
I agree. And I do want to give credit to the Clippers because I feel like Kawhi and Paul George both really stepped up.
I'll tip my cap to the Clippers. I will. That was an impressive what they did coming down from 0-2 because I didn't think they had it in them.
No, mentally. And it would have been very easy to fold.
Absolutely.
And be down and out and understand, okay, we got to figure something out. We'll come back next year. And they didn't. And they came back and they won the series. And our buddy made a point that he thinks the Clippers are a good matchup for the I should say a bad matchup for the Nets because
the Jazz, you mean?
No, for the Nets.
Oh, I
thought Andrew was talking about the Nets when he was saying that basically the only team in the league that could match up, because I don't think the Jazz stand a chance against the Nets if they met in the finals.
Oh, no.
They don't have the star.
So you're saying the only team that can compete with the Nets is the Clippers because of the wing defenders that they have.
Exactly.
And the offense that they can put up as well.
Exactly.
Especially if they get their guys going, because Game 6, Marcus Morris was like 1 for 10. Game 7, Marcus Morris is 7 of 9 from 3.
But look at the changes.
Reggie Jackson, Game 6, hit like 6 threes.
Look at the changes Ty Lue did, because Reggie Jackson, hadn't played well.
Reggie Jackson, I was one of the worst players like 3 years ago in the league.
And Ty Lue did something that Doc Rivers never did, and he benched Patrick Beverley.
One of the main guys on that Clipper team.
And Zubac didn't play him.
Voice. I think he only played Rondo like 9 minutes because Rondo was basically a zero.
Yeah.
In these last couple games against Dallas. Ty Lue, that was something I always loved about Ty Lue when he was the coach for the Cavs, because he did
what he thought it was right,
and he didn't care about tough love.
Exactly.
He was like, I'm not here to be your best friend. He's like, we're here to win games, because this story is a pretty famous one where he told LeBron in Game 7 against the Warriors, he said, you just got to be better. And LeBron's like, I got like 15, 8, and 8 at halftime or whatever. He's like, what the fuck is he talking about? And Ty Lue's like, you got to be better. Go win us this game. Pissed LeBron off. They go win the title. Game 7. Story ended.
Yep.
And then that's the thing. He was like, look, Patrick Beverley, you're a terrible matchup in this. I can't play you. You are getting destroyed by Luka.
Giving us nothing offensively.
We're getting the switch, and he is murdering you. You're like a minus 18 in 5 minutes that you're in this ball game. So
hats off to Ty Lue.
I'll give a ton of props to the Clippers, because I hate Paul George. And I thought he played pretty well throughout the series, offensively and defensively. Kawhi was that Game 6 that he played both ways. That was one of the best Kawhi games I've ever seen. That was reminiscent of San Antonio Kawhi.
Hell, Raptors Kawhi.
But there was times where he got to relax defensively in Toronto.
Yeah,
there was.
Because they were a good defensive team.
And they could throw Siakam on the best player, and they usually did that. But it was like prime, 25-year-old Kawhi. Like, I need you to go guard LeBron in the finals and also give us 27 points. And he did.
Well, that was the knock, because through this series, you really didn't question his offense, because he was putting points every game.
Numbers every single game. It was defensively. He was letting Luka
look like he was
switches.
Avoiding Luka. Yes. He wasn't like, I'm going to take over the game and lock him down. Luka would go for 40, and it was just kind of like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, which wasn't working. And he finally, it looked like, stepped up and said, I got him.
Yep.
I'm going to go win this game. And that's what they did. And I'm going to win the series. And that's what they did.
It was very impressive.
So
hats off to the Clippers. They get Utah Game 1's tonight. No Mike Conley, which is huge for the Jazz. News. I told you, I said, I always thought the Mavericks, or at the beginning, I thought the Clippers were going to win that series. And then when they went down 0-2, I was like, no, there's no way. But then you kind of always thought they were going to win whatever. But I didn't think they'll be able to get past Utah. I just don't. I think Utah is just a really good team. And I think they've been underrated all year. Everyone's like, we don't believe in the Jazz. They're a good regular season team, but I just think that they've got guys. I think they had 5 guys in the first round, average 17 or more.
Well, they're a lot like Milwaukee the past 3 or 4 years, that every year they're right at the top of their conference. They have one of the best records, and then so early in the playoffs, they get beat and they're out. And it's like,
that's true, but in hindsight, they've lost to the better teams, to where Milwaukee probably hadn't. So that's where I'll push back on that one. But all in all, I just think Utah's a better team, and they're much better suited defensively to guard the Clippers than the Mavericks were, because the Mavericks were one of those prime examples. We were just talking about the Hawks. They were like, we're just going to try and outscore you. We don't even care. Because the first, from games 3, 4, and 5, Dallas was just like, we're not even going to defend you. We're just going to let you guys do whatever you want, and we're just going to try and outscore you. In game 6 and 7, they tried harder defensively, but it was just too late.
Do you feel like the Jazz were the same team without Donovan Mitchell?
No, clearly not.
I think the Clippers are going to be able to eliminate Donovan Mitchell and see.
Yeah.
I don't think the Jazz outside of him have enough star power, because you look at Gobert as a defensive presence, not so much offensive, which he can give you buckets here and there, but you don't look at him like, damn, he could take over a game.
Offensively, no, and he's just a role guy, and he'll finish around the rim. What the Clippers were able to do against Dallas was just attack the rim, because Dallas had no rim protection. That's what's going to change in this series.
For sure, because they started putting their head down.
Gobert's the best rim protector maybe one of the best rim protectors of all time. Like at least arguably up there with like Duncan and Olajuwon.
For sure, one of the most underappreciated of all time.
Yeah, and I think once he's all said and done, I think he'll be talked about like that. It's just right now.
We need to go over this
the wrong way
after game one, because the Clippers could go into game one very tired after this long series.
7-game series.
And if they lose game one, they're going to be fighting an uphill battle.
Yep.
If they can steal game one.
They don't have home court in this
don't.
series, which didn't really matter.
No. I mean, last game you didn't want home court. It was whoever the away team was.
One home game in that last series, but yeah.
But game one could be huge. If the Clippers can win game one, I feel very good about their chances on taking the series.
You say that, but I know it was the Grizzlies, but the Jazz lost game one last series, and everyone was freaking out that they were going to lose. And then they win 4 straight.
Yeah, but the Grizzlies are nowhere near.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, they're not as good as the Clippers. Not even close. But
it'll be interesting.
I know. I just think I like Utah in this matchup. I just think Donovan Mitchell is ready. He's ascending. I think and he can go toe-to-toe because he's not scared to go toe-to-toe with Paul George.
I don't believe he's scared. I just think that they'll be able to throw Paul George and Kawhi at him back and forth and kind of limit his buckets.
I mean, it was honestly kind of telling to me, and then I know Kawhi's a better defender than PG, but Luka was welcoming Paul George to guard him because he was really just doing what he wanted.
But Luka's also 6'7" and a lot thicker than Donovan Mitchell, so he's better around the rim, and his step back is a lot harder to defend.
True.
So he's better at creating his own shot, and his matchup was a little better against the Clippers, whereas Donovan Mitchell's like 6'4"?
6'4", 6'5"-ish.
So not as big, not as physically daunting.
He's definitely quicker and
for sure.
Definitely has.
But Paul George and Kawhi can handle quicker.
True.
So that I think it's going to be
hard.
harder.
You like the Clippers in this series?
I do. Yep, I'll take the Clippers in 6.
I'll take Utah in 6. I like Utah in this matchup. I just think I picked them before to beat the Clippers. And I'll stick with that because I just thought they've been one of the best teams. I originally picked them to go against the Lakers in the conference finals, and then obviously that is no longer because AD got hurt. And
we can just touch on that a little bit. We're not even trying to avoid the Lakers conversation. It was just like it wasn't. I mean, AD was not himself.
Do you think it's as simple as AD was hurt? That's why they lost? Because I do. Because you can say it looked terrible because they didn't have Anthony Davis, but in games 2 and 3, he had 34 and 10 in back-to-back games, and they were clearly the better team and really just kind of beat up on Phoenix. He gets banged up game 4 after halftime, series over, and they just get blown out of the water because I just really do think that LeBron was just like, I can't win without AD. So I don't think he was trying as hard. And that I don't like as a LeBron fan. Yeah. I don't like that he wasn't playing his hardest, but I think there was a part of him that was like, I know I can't win this series without AD or even maybe get past the next round.
Not only that, nobody else was making their damn shots.
Exactly, and that was a big thing too. I think a lot of their guys, I've got it here, they were like, Schroeder was shot like 30% from threes, Kuzma 17%, KCP 21%, Caruso 29%, Matthews 28%, Morris 25%, McLemore 33%. Like, none of their guys were hitting open shots, and they were open.
Yeah, I was going to emphasize open.
Even in the games they won, they still weren't hitting these shots, but it was too much LeBron and too much AD as to where, like you said, games 4, 5, and 6, they just got blown out of the water. They did. And it was because, and I do think it's just as simple as they didn't have AD, because if Anthony Davis is still playing, I think the Lakers are still in this round against Denver and probably going to beat the Nuggets in the second round and go to the conference finals.
I think it's simple enough to say they would have beaten the Suns with a healthy AD and maybe even made it all the way to the finals. But the way Brooklyn's playing...
And I'm not saying they would have beat Brooklyn, but I'm just saying if AD's healthy, they're not out of the playoffs yet.
No, I agree with that. But I will tell you, I was very surprised by how good Phoenix looked. Regardless of how bad the Lakers looked, they were putting up points. It's not like they were winning, 99-87.
No,
I mean, they were doing whatever they wanted.
They were up like 40-16 in Game 6.
That Lakers defense was like the best all year, and they were like setting records for the amount of shots. I mean, they were. What game was it? Game 4 or 5 that they just came. Maybe it was 6. Came out where
I think it was Game 6 where Devin Booker just goes 6 of 6 from 3.
Oh my God! Not only him, the whole team just They didn't miss.
I mean, that was a huge game for Booker.
You took a bite of cereal and they had 40 points, and I'm like, what just happened? They didn't miss a bucket, and I mean that was impressive. That watch out if you're a Suns fan going forward. You should be excited.
That was something. I mean, against the Lakers. I mean, once AD went out and obviously nobody was hitting shots, the Sun packed the paint. And LeBron was like, okay, I mean, I'm driving into 17 guys right here. He's like, I've got no room to maneuver, and my guys aren't hitting shots. I'm kicking it out. They're open. We're just missing. I mean, it was kind of just really as simple as that. And Phoenix played their ass off. Chris Paul got healthier, and he was a lot better. Ayton was unbelievable in this series. I mean, he outplayed Anthony Davis was hurt, but even in game one, throughout the totality of the series, Ayton outplayed AD.
For sure. And let's just say, like, towards the end of the series, one of the biggest reasons the Lakers just got dominated was you take the best player in LeBron and the best player in Devin Booker. Devin Booker outplayed LeBron in this series. And then you just go down the line.
The others for Phoenix just
my God.
Way outplayed the others for the Lakers.
It wasn't even close. The next 5 or 6 best players were on Phoenix.
Easily.
I mean, any given night, a different guy from Phoenix was hitting their shots. Not only they were hitting, I mean, when Phoenix had an open look, and they shot, you just knew it was going in.
You had a feeling it was going in, but the opposite for the Lakers.
Exactly. When they had an open shot, they left him open for that reason.
And they weren't taking shots because nobody had confidence. And I mean, you see guys with wide open lanes, and they're just like, I'm not going to fire the ball because I don't think I'm going to make it. So they had no confidence. They had no rhythm offensively. Their offense was atrocious. I mean, it was bad. I mean, Schroeder forgot how to play basketball for 3 straight games. Kuzma averaged 6 points a game.
He's got to go
throughout this series.
Got to go.
He's got a tradable contract.
Very tradable. I don't know what NBA team would want him.
You're not getting equal value. You're getting less. You may get a pick.
Maybe.
Or he's in a package with somebody just to make a salary fit if you want a Schroeder, if you want a Talen Horton-Tucker, because that's about their only trade asset right now is THT. And they do own this year's draft pick because that was one that didn't go in the Anthony Davis trade. So they do own this one. So they have a first-round pick and some tradable contracts to do. But you also can't just flat out hit the panic mode if you're Lakers. You just won the title. You had the shortest offseason in NBA history.
Anthony
you were never
Davis.
healthy all year. LeBron missed 27 games. Schroeder missed like 2 different stretches. He had 2 different stretches with the COVID protocols. AD, obviously, we know all the games that he missed. So you get a longer offseason than damn near everybody, except for the teams that didn't make the playoffs. 6 extra days than the guys that didn't make the playoffs. So all the title contender playoff teams, they're going to have a short season because the season's starting regular in October and the finals are ending in August or something like that. So they're not going to have a long offseason either. So this may benefit the Lakers that they lost this. And you still have LeBron and AD, and with those 2 guys, you always got a shot. You at least have a chance to compete for a title, and that's what you at least ask for.
Yeah, because even on a bum ankle, which I don't believe he was 100% the whole way through, and at age 36, it didn't look like he lost a lot athletically.
No, he was still getting at the rim.
He can still pass. He can still shoot. He can still drive when needed.
And his mind is always going to keep him above water in the league.
Tom Brady, the reason he's still winning Super Bowls is because his IQ of the game and the defense.
He's 3 steps ahead of everybody.
Exactly. He's not running like Lamar Jackson or Russell Wilson or scrambling out and throwing bootleg passes. He stays in the pocket and he will pick you apart because he understands what's going on. Same thing with LeBron. He will be able to do that for another 3 or 4 years.
Easily.
So he needs to, in my opinion, start working his way back to a point guard role.
I liked that last year for him when the Lakers ran that. They just had more shooters around him, and
that's what needs to happen.
They wanted to take the load off of him in the regular season with Schroeder.
They would take the load off of him if he ran a point guard role.
If true, but I just feel like Schroeder's more suited for like a backup guard role in this league. I know he thinks he's $100 million guy, but he's not.
Don't be surprised if the Lakers bring in 3 or 4 guys that they're known for shooting.
This roster is going to look different this year. There's no way. I mean,
and they're bringing
in
shooters.
To. I mean, I think that if they can, they'll move Schroeder. They'll have to sign him and move him. I would move Kuzma. There's going to be some moves that they make. They just have to.
What about a guy like JJ Redick?
They've just got to get more shooting, no matter where it is, and he'd be fine.
Yeah. I could see them going after somebody
anybody
like
that's a better shooter than Kuzma or even what KCP was able to do this year, because after the beginning of the season, KCP really tailed off.
And after this year,
I think their best shooter.
After you watch the Nets roll through everybody, I think they're going to realize, okay, I know our defense was great, but we're going to have to sacrifice a little defense and be able to put the ball in the hole, because 90 points a game isn't going to work.
And, I mean, I know Anthony Davis doesn't like playing the 5, and you don't have to play him in the 5 throughout the whole regular season, but come playoff times, that dude just got to nut up and play the 5.
I
agree.
Just
does, because there's only...
That's another guy we didn't even mention, Drummond. I mean...
Yeah, I don't think he's back on this team.
No, Gasol's
probably not back on this team.
No.
Harrell probably opts into his contract because no one else is probably going to give him $9 million because he clearly just didn't fit. Maybe they try and move him. I don't know. But there was just a lot of things they did in this offseason that didn't help them come playoffs, that they thought were just going to carry them through the regular season, and then LeBron and AD could get them through the playoffs like they did last year. But there was just some better teams.
We're already at an hour 5. I'll get one quick thought on Brad Stevens stepping down.
Well, hold on. Just Denver and Phoenix.
Okay.
We could just harp on this real quick, because this one, I think it's going to be Phoenix in 5. I just think Phoenix is the better team.
They got momentum right now.
Denver they just don't have enough guys, and Phoenix is a much, much better team than Portland. Phoenix actually plays defense. I know they don't have Ayton's the only guy they can really throw at Jokic, but I mean,
I think he'll hold his own.
He's going to do a fine enough job.
Yeah,
Jokic will get his against the best defensive center in the league, in Embiid or AD. He would get there, but it's just the other guys. They're getting torched in the guard play, and just defensively, they're just going to smother Denver, because they went on like a 17-0 run last night in the third quarter that just absolutely turned that game, and Denver did not have an answer for them. I think that one's going to be probably the quickest series of round 2.
I can get behind that.
The Nets just sweep the Bucks. I'll give the Bucks at least a game at home. The Nets will probably just be like, we don't need this one. Let's just go win game 5 at home and end the series.
Maybe. Or they could think, let's sweep these boys real quick.
And get put
fear
rest
into everybody else's mind and get as much rest as possible.
I just don't think this series is going to be as much as good as Jokic is, and the Porter piece and Gordon, how good he's been this year. I just don't think they have enough to beat Phoenix, because Phoenix is just a legitimate good team.
They showed they were a fantastic team all around. Yeah. So I'll take Phoenix. I'll give you 5.
I like Phoenix in 5. I think they take the first 2.
No more than 6. I don't think there's any chance it goes 7.
No, I just think Phoenix they just have no matchup for Devin Booker. I mean, and if these guys, Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson and Crowder, hitting these threes like they did in the first round, I mean, my guy Cam Payne, out of nowhere, dude was looking like Larry Bird.
Yeah,
like Jesus.
So hats off to Phoenix. Like I said, I was super surprised by them in the first round.
And Denver, like I said, with the Murray injury, I think they would have been the best team in the West. I think they would have beaten the Lakers this year if the Lakers were fully healthy. I really do, because the Lakers just didn't have enough shooting to beat that team. Anyways, we'll go on. We can briefly talk about Brad Stevens real quick.
I just want your thoughts. I didn't see it coming.
It was weird. It shocked everybody.
Danny Ainge is one of the, to me, in my NBA knowledge, one of the most respected NBA GMs. He's had that job forever. He's gotten them titles. He's brought in a bunch of guys there, had a lot of good teams, and then out of nowhere, he is no longer the GM.
Resigned, quote unquote, resigns, got asked to step down, fired, whatever you want to call it. And then I just don't think they wanted to lose Brad at all.
I don't either.
And they were like, well, I mean, and maybe his voice just got stale in the locker room. Maybe it did. And maybe all these young guys were like, I mean, he's just how many times can you say the same thing over and over again and it just doesn't work?
And he's already quietly been there for like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah. He's the second longest tenure, or third longest behind Pop and Spoelstra.
Which is nuts. Because when I heard that, I was like, I feel like he's only been there 3 or 4 years.
The third longest tenured coach, and it's only 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. That's just the turnover that you see. I maybe Rick Carlisle. I think he might be 4th behind those 3 guys. But still, to be the 4th longest tenured coach and it's only 7 years, I just don't think they really wanted to lose him. And
they want to see his mind in another role.
Yeah, just strange. And I don't think he's going to be the only guy making decisions like Ainge was. I think Ainge had full control over everything. I don't know if Brad will have full control over everything. He might have to work with other people.
And maybe there was a lot of tension behind the scenes where Brad was going to the owner like, hey, I would do it this way. Ainge doesn't do it that way. And then it doesn't work. And he goes to the owner like, see, I told you if I would have done it this way.
I mean, Ainge had a very successful run, but you get that last couple years, and they just didn't have the talent that they had the first couple years. I mean, they lost Hayward for nothing, Horford for nothing. They swapped Kemba for Kyrie, and that was a disaster. Lose Rozier. And I just don't know. I just thought it was strange. And Brad's like, well, shit, I mean, give me something to work with here. I mean, I got Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and that's it. I'm
just curious who the coach is going to be.
I've heard Chauncey Billups is a name that they're really looking to. Chauncey Billups.
He's kind of come up through the ranks fast and very well respected. Yep. And it could be interesting. And you're seeing a run on these former players as coaches.
I think they need the Celtics. That young team needs a guy that's going to show them tough love, because I think Brad Stevens wasn't that guy to do that. He was more of kind of I'll baby you a little bit. Yeah.
So we'll see. I wanted to get your quick thoughts because it was kind of big news, and it kind of happened out of nowhere.
And it would have been bigger news and more of a story, I think, if it happened in the offseason rather than the middle of the playoffs when the Lakers are plummeting and losing in the first round. LeBron's ever first round exit. Brooklyn's going crazy. Milwaukee sweeps Miami.
Yep.
So it was kind of a story that just got swept under the rug a little bit because so many other things were happening.
So it'll be interesting to see going forward the talking points we have on the next show, because a lot could happen.
A lot can change. I mean, a lot changes. I mean, we saw it in the first round. We could see it in the second round. I mean, maybe we're talking 2-2. Bucks are blowing out the Nets in games 3 and 4, or the Clippers are up 2-0 or down 2-0 or something. We'll see. But
we can get out of here on that.
Let's get out of here on that one, man.
All right. Until next time.